Your life is not shaped by the events outside, but by the quiet sentences you repeat inside. Every thought is a seed, every word is a builder. Change the dialogue within and the entire architecture of your future shifts. These 10 ways are not tricks or shortcuts, they are deep keys to transform your inner language, unlock hidden strength, and set your life on a higher path. The voice within is the architect of life. Every thought is a seed, and every word spoken silently to yourself is water poured on that soil. When the dialogue inside is filled with strength, possibility, and faith, it builds unseen walls of protection and unseen doors of opportunity. When that dialogue is filled with doubt, fear, and self-criticism, it builds prisons that keep you from your true path. The power of self-talk is not abstract. It is a law as real as gravity. What you continually tell yourself becomes what you continually see, and eventually what you continually live. Imagine two people standing before the same storm. One whispers inside, "This storm will break me." The other whispers, "This storm will shape me." The storm is the same, but the outcome is different. Inner dialogue does not change the world outside immediately, but it changes the way the world is received, and that shift begins to reshape reality itself. Self-talk is a compass. It turns the mind toward resilience, toward courage, toward unseen opportunities. That is why guarding the words inside is one of the highest forms of spiritual discipline. The transformation begins small. Instead of repeating "I cannot," begin with "I will try." Instead of "This is too much," speak "This is my training." Instead of "I am weak," say "I am becoming strong." These may appear like simple phrases, but over time they write a new story into the heart. The repetition of these truths awakens the subconscious, and the subconscious, once aligned, directs behavior, focus, and energy toward a new reality. What begins as a whisper becomes a declaration, and what begins as a declaration becomes destiny. The power of self-talk is not about pretending. It is about choosing words that expand rather than shrink, that heal rather than wound, that build rather than destroy. It is about giving the soul a steady rhythm of faith even when the mind wants to collapse. Life will always bring trials, but the voice you use within those trials can turn them into blessings. The words you speak to yourself shape the person you become, and the person you become shapes the life you live. Every great transformation begins as an idea that feels impossible. At the start, the mind resists, the world doubts, and even the heart trembles. Yet the quiet voice inside can rewrite that script. To believe in the impossible is to plant a seed no one else can see. It requires the inner dialogue of courage. Though no one believes, I will believe. Though no one sees, I will see. This is not blind optimism. It is spiritual conviction that possibility is greater than probability. The impossible exists only in the language we use. When the inner voice repeats, "It cannot be done," the mind closes and creativity dies. When the inner voice whispers, "What if it can?" the door opens. From that door flows energy, inspiration, and clarity. This is why belief is not passive. It is an active inner conversation that must be fed daily. Belief is a discipline. It must be spoken until it takes root, and once rooted, it cannot be shaken easily by the winds of failure. To believe in the impossible is to train your thoughts to hold steady in uncertainty. It is to say, "This difficulty is not a wall, it is a gate." It is to affirm, "What I carry is real even if the world has not yet touched it." When that becomes your self-talk, you become willing to try, to fail, and to rise again. Each failure becomes proof of persistence. Each setback becomes confirmation that you are still on the journey. Belief does not erase obstacles, but it transforms how you meet them. When the voice within aligns with belief, life begins to bend toward that vision. Others may call it chance or luck, but it is simply the law of alignment at work, inner conviction drawing outer reality. To begin with, belief in the impossible is to live with a spiritual posture of hope. It is to tell yourself, "I will continue even when no evidence exists." And in time, that belief, repeated faithfully, becomes the bridge between the invisible dream and the visible life. Hardship is the ground where strength is grown. When the inner voice declares, "This is too much," the weight doubles. When the inner voice whispers, "This is preparing me," the burden becomes training. Life's rhythm often moves from struggle to deeper struggle before breakthrough arrives. This is not punishment, it is the nature of growth. Muscles tear before they become strong. Seeds rot before they sprout. So it is with the spirit, it must endure pressure before it can shine with clarity. Self-talk during these seasons is not about denial, it is about interpretation. Pain can be a wall or a teacher depending on the story told within. When tomorrow feels darker than today, the inner voice can either echo fear or speak faith. Saying "this will pass" is an act of courage. Saying "I will find wisdom here" is an act of vision. The storm may not calm quickly, but the dialogue inside becomes an anchor. Even as outer conditions worsen, the mind can choose language that uplifts rather than destroys. The power of such speech is not merely psychological, it is spiritual. It keeps the soul from collapsing into despair and keeps the body moving forward, one step at a time. The pattern of life often follows 3 steps: difficulty, greater difficulty, and then sudden light. The day after tomorrow, the moment of relief, arrives not because hardship disappears, but because endurance creates a new level of perception. Self-talk fuels this endurance. Telling yourself, "This is the season of shaping," allows you to hold on through nights of confusion. Speaking words of trust when all evidence contradicts them is not foolishness, it is faith in the unseen law of renewal. The dawn always follows the night, even if the night feels endless. By embracing this rhythm, the inner voice turns suffering into power. Hard days become preparation, not punishment. Dark tomorrows become tests of faith, not the end of the journey. The self-talk of resilience transforms every challenge into a stepping stone. When the soul whispers, "The sunshine will come," the body keeps walking. And those who keep walking find that the light always arrives. The unseen begins with words. Every invention, every company, every movement began as a sentence repeated in the mind of a single person. To name the future into being is to speak what does not yet exist as though it already breathes. This is not empty fantasy, it is the spiritual law of alignment. What you declare consistently, you begin to embody. What you embody, you begin to attract. Words create vision, and vision creates direction. The future is not first built with stone or steel, it is built with thought and speech. Inner dialogue becomes prophecy when it is consistent and precise. Saying "one day I will build" shapes focus. Saying "this is who I am becoming" shapes character. Over time, these affirmations shift the subconscious, align decisions, and influence action. Even when outer circumstances contradict, the repeated inner naming of a future reality carries its own gravity. It draws resources, people, and opportunities toward itself, not by magic, but by the natural law of focus. What the mind dwells upon, the world begins to reflect. To name the future into being requires discipline. It demands that the inner voice refuse language of despair, replacing it with words of destiny. Instead of saying "this dream is too far," speak "this dream is unfolding." Instead of saying "I am unprepared," affirm "I am preparing." These shifts may appear small, but they create vast differences in direction. The inner script becomes a map, and those who hold fast to the map, even in storms, eventually arrive at the destination. When the inner voice names the future, it sows seeds that reality eventually waters. This is why it is crucial to speak with care. Words of defeat plant weeds, words of faith plant gardens. To transform life, the future must be named with clarity, confidence, and hope. Speak it until it becomes natural. Live as if it already belongs to you. And in time, the world will rise to meet the vision you have spoken into being. Fear is a voice that limits, while curiosity is a voice that expands. When the mind whispers, "This is dangerous," the body tightens and the spirit withdraws. When the inner dialogue asks, What can I learn here? The body relaxes and the spirit opens. The same situation can either shrink or enlarge the soul depending on the words chosen inside. Fear always seeks to shut down possibilities. Curiosity always seeks to explore them. The transformation from fear to curiosity begins in self-talk, in the subtle choice of replacing a closed statement with an open question. Fearful dialogue says, I will fail. Curious dialogue says, what if failure teaches me something valuable? Fear says, I am not enough. Curiosity asks, what skills can I practice to become more? These inner adjustments appear small, yet they shift the entire perception of reality. Fear builds walls that block action. Curiosity builds doors that invite movement. This is why the discipline of self-talk is so powerful. It does not always remove the challenge, but it changes the way the challenge is approached, and in that change lies transformation. Life will always present uncertainty. Fear reacts with resistance. Curiosity responds with exploration. One closes down growth, the other accelerates it. To practice curiosity in the face of fear is to give the mind freedom to expand beyond its current limits. This requires conscious repetition. Whenever fear arises, the self-talk must pivot. This is a chance to discover. This is an opportunity to see what I have not yet seen. Over time, this dialogue becomes natural, and fear loses its hold. The soul is not meant to live in cages built by fear. It is meant to walk through open fields of discovery. Curiosity keeps the heart alive and the spirit moving forward, even when the path is uncertain. Self-talk is the key that turns fear into a question and transforms every obstacle into an opportunity for learning. Speak curiosity to yourself, and life will begin to feel less like a battlefield and more like a school of endless growth. Every person carries within them both a leader and a follower. The leader gives direction, the follower listens and obeys. When the inner dialogue is disordered, the leader is silent and the follower is confused. To live with strength requires appointing a wise inner CEO, the guiding voice that provides clarity, courage, and consistency. This is not about control from the ego. It is about cultivating an inner authority that commands respect and guides the heart toward truth. The inner CEO speaks with both firmness and humility. It says, here is where we are going, while also whispering, here is what we must still learn. It balances confidence with openness. Without this balance, self-talk becomes either harsh and destructive or weak and aimless. The discipline is to train the voice inside to sound like a wise leader, calm in crisis, steady in change, and encouraging in defeat. This voice must not bully, it must guide. It must not belittle, it must elevate. When the inner dialogue adopts the role of a leader, actions align naturally, decisions gain clarity, focus strengthens, doubt diminishes. The body begins to respond to the steady tone of command, and the spirit feels supported. This is why leadership begins within. A person who cannot direct their own inner voice will struggle to direct anything outside, but a person whose inner CEO is strong will radiate calm authority that inspires others. To cultivate this, practice daily affirmations that sound like clear decisions. This is where I am going. This is what I will learn. This is what I will achieve. Balance them with humble reminders. I am still growing. I am open to wisdom. I am willing to adapt. This dual voice creates harmony. The result is inner leadership that is firm yet flexible, strong yet humble. When the inner CEO is active, the entire life moves forward with order, purpose, and grace. Failure has a voice, and too often it speaks in tones of shame. It says you are not good enough. It says you should stop. Yet failure's true voice is different. It is not an enemy, but a friend disguised in hard clothing. The key is to change the inner dialogue around it. Instead of saying, this defeat proves I am weak, speak, this defeat prepares me for strength. The way you describe failure to yourself determines whether it becomes poison or nourishment. When the mind frames failure as final, energy dies, but when self-talk frames it as rehearsal, the spirit rises. Athletes train by repeating movements until they get them right. Musicians practice until wrong notes turn into perfect melodies. Life is no different. Each misstep is part of a rehearsal for mastery. The discipline is to whisper to yourself, "This is practice. This is training. I am being shaped." Such words shift despair into purpose, and purpose makes the burden lighter. Failure as a friend brings perspective. It reveals blind spots. It forces humility. It strengthens patience. If the inner dialogue embraces these truths, then every failure enriches the soul. Without failure, pride would dominate and wisdom would never take root. This is why those who succeed deeply often carry scars. They learn to transform wounds into teachers. The dialogue within kept telling them, "Rise again, learn again, try again." And so they grew. Friendship with failure does not mean seeking it. It means welcoming it when it arrives. Self-talk that honors failure as a teacher builds resilience. Speak to yourself, "This setback is part of the story. This fall is part of the climb." By doing so, you create an inner atmosphere where nothing is wasted. Every loss becomes instruction. Every defeat becomes strength. In that space, failure stops being feared and starts being embraced as a trusted companion on the journey to greatness. Resilience is not born in a single moment of strength. It is carved into the soul through repetition. The words repeated daily in the mind become the rhythms that carry a person through hardship. A single encouraging phrase spoken once may fade quickly. A phrase spoken 1,000 times becomes an unshakable truth. This is why the inner dialogue must be trained with consistency. Repeated words are the seeds of resilience. When the body feels tired and the heart feels heavy, repetition is what keeps the spirit moving. Saying, "I will not give up," again and again is like striking a drumbeat that keeps the march alive. Over time, this rhythm becomes automatic. It no longer requires effort. It becomes the natural voice of the soul. The repetition creates endurance not just in thought but in action. What you repeat within, you begin to live without. Resilience in repetition follows a spiritual law. Energy flows where attention goes. If you repeatedly speak of despair, despair strengthens. If you repeatedly speak courage, courage strengthens. The repetition does not erase difficulty, but it equips the heart to face it with steady resolve. This is why repetition matters more than brilliance. A single brilliant phrase spoken once may inspire, but a simple, steady phrase spoken daily transforms. Train your self-talk to be rhythmic. Choose a few phrases of power and repeat them until they become your natural language. I endure. I grow. I continue. Simple words repeated with faith create profound resilience. Over months and years, these words write themselves into your character. And when storms come, they rise automatically, like a song that cannot be forgotten. That song is resilience, and it is born through repetition. The dialogue within shapes how we see others. If the inner voice constantly says, "What do I gain?" the spirit shrinks. If the inner voice asks, "How can I give?" the spirit expands. The language of service is a higher form of self-talk. It trains the soul to align with abundance, not scarcity. Serving others is not a loss. It is multiplication. The words we use inside about service either open or close the heart. True strength is revealed when the inner dialogue is not only about personal success but about collective growth. Speaking to yourself, "My role is to lift others," changes the way you act, lead, and decide. It shifts attention from competition to contribution. This shift creates trust, and trust multiplies influence. When the self-talk honors service, opportunities come not by force but by attraction. The language of service transforms relationships. Instead of comparing, the inner voice begins to encourage. Instead of envying, it begins to bless. Saying to yourself, "Their growth is my growth," creates unity. Saying, "If I can help someone rise, I rise too," creates a foundation of shared destiny. Such language aligns with spiritual law. Giving and receiving are not separate, they are two sides of the same current. To practice this, begin your self-talk with questions of service. Who can I encourage today? How can I contribute to their strength? Repeat these inner questions until they guide action naturally. Over time, the focus on serving others creates an atmosphere where everyone grows. And in that growth, your own life expands far beyond what self-centered ambition could ever reach. The language of service is the key to an abundant life. Competition can be a trap for the mind if the inner voice turns it into jealousy or despair. When the dialogue says, "They are better than me, I can never win," the spirit shrinks and energy is lost. True competition is not about copying or comparing, it is about learning. The shift comes when self-talk changes from "I must be like them" to "I will grow from them." This reframing transforms competition into a teacher rather than an enemy. Every competitor carries lessons. Some reveal new ideas, others reveal your weaknesses, others awaken strengths you did not know existed. When the inner dialogue chooses to see competition as instruction, resentment disappears. You stop wasting energy on envy and begin investing it in growth. Words like "I will learn from them" open doors to creativity, while words like "I must defeat them" close them. Self-talk is the turning point between rivalry that drains and competition that strengthens. Competition, reframed, becomes a mirror. It shows what you are missing, what you can improve, and where you can shine uniquely. By telling yourself, "I will learn, but I will never copy," you preserve authenticity. Copying weakens the soul, learning strengthens it. The inner dialogue must hold both humility to learn and courage to remain original. With this balance, competition becomes a ladder, not a battlefield. Speak this to yourself daily. Their success is proof of possibility, not a threat to mine. I walk my path and they walk theirs. When this becomes the natural rhythm of thought, competition no longer feels heavy. It becomes light, almost joyful, because it pushes you forward without stealing your peace. This is the art of reframing competition, using it to fuel growth without losing yourself in comparison. Every life passes through seasons of darkness. The outer world may be filled with failure, rejection, or uncertainty. In those times, the voice within becomes the most important light. To speak light into darkness is not to deny reality, it is to bring hope into it. Words like "this will end" or "I am still walking" carry spiritual power. They may not change the circumstance instantly, but they change the atmosphere within, and that change sustains the journey. Darkness always whispers, "You are finished, you will not recover." To answer back with light is an act of courage. When the self-talk repeats, "The day after tomorrow will be sunshine," the soul finds endurance. Hope does not remove pain, but it gives meaning to it. Inner light spoken faithfully creates strength, and strength eventually transforms situations. Speaking light also requires vision. It means naming the good that has not yet arrived. It means saying, "This difficulty is shaping me, this storm will pass." Such words open the heart to perseverance. They align the inner voice with the universal law of renewal. Just as the sun always rises after night, life always shifts after seasons of shadow. The repetition of this truth becomes a lantern carried inside. To master this, train your thoughts to seek words of encouragement even in the darkest hours. Whisper them until they feel natural. There is light, there is growth, there is purpose. Over time, this inner light becomes unshakable. It is not borrowed from others, it radiates from within. And when it shines steadily inside, it begins to illuminate the path outside. Patience is not weakness, it is a form of inner power. The self-talk of patience allows the soul to move at the rhythm of life without forcing or rushing. When the inner voice says, "It must happen now," frustration grows. When it says, "Great things take time," peace returns. Patience is not waiting idly, it is trusting deeply. The way you speak to yourself about time shapes how you live through it. Growth follows seasons. Seeds cannot rush to become trees. Rivers cannot force their way to the ocean overnight. When self-talk aligns with patience, life feels less like a race and more like a journey. Instead of scolding yourself for delays, you say, I am unfolding. Instead of condemning slow progress, you say, this is the season of preparation. Such words remove pressure and replace it with steady faith. The dialogue of patience also creates endurance by telling yourself, I am willing to wait, I am willing to grow. You conserve energy. Impatience drains, patience sustains. The inner voice becomes a guardian against despair. It teaches the heart to accept today without losing hope for tomorrow. This balance allows progress to be steady, not erratic. Practice speaking patiently daily. Tell yourself, what belongs to me will come. What is meant to bloom will bloom. These words calm the restless mind and strengthen the waiting spirit. With such self-talk, waiting becomes not a punishment but a process of refinement. And when the time of harvest comes, you will be ready to receive it fully. Optimism is often misunderstood as a mood that comes and goes like the weather. In truth, it is a discipline. The inner voice must be trained to look toward hope even when circumstances push in the opposite direction. Saying to yourself, I will rise again, is not ignoring the struggle. It is choosing to carry faith through it. Optimism is not blindness, it is vision. It sees beyond what is present to what can be. The difference between an optimistic dialogue and a pessimistic one is enormous. When the inner voice repeats, things will never change. The heart closes and energy fades. When it whispers, the change may be slow, but it is coming. Strength is renewed. Optimism keeps the spirit open. It prevents the mind from becoming trapped in despair. It is not a feeling gifted by life, it is a practice built through words. To choose optimism daily is to repeat hopeful language until it becomes natural. This requires consistency. Even when doubt rises, the inner voice can be guided back with phrases like, I will endure, I will find a way. These words may feel small at first, but over time they carve resilience into the soul. The subconscious begins to believe, and belief becomes reality. Optimism is not wishful thinking. It is spiritual alignment with the possibility of renewal. Speak optimism into your own heart every day. I am stronger than I know. I am moving forward. Better days are ahead. These affirmations do not erase pain, but they keep the flame alive during the night. And when morning comes, those who practiced optimism are ready to receive its light. Words carry energy. The way you speak to yourself can either drain or renew your strength. A harsh inner voice that constantly criticizes weakens the body and mind. A gentle but firm inner voice that encourages creates momentum. This is why words are not just sounds in the mind, they are fuel. The dialogue you repeat to yourself determines how much energy you carry into each day. When the inner voice says, I cannot go on, the body collapses faster. When it says, I will take one more step, strength appears that was hidden. This is not magic, it is alignment. The body listens to the language of the mind. If the words are heavy, the body feels heavy. If the words are light, the body feels lighter. Energy is not only physical, it is also spiritual, and words are its channel. To create energy through words, the dialogue inside must be purposeful. Choose phrases that lift rather than crush. I am capable. I will continue. This effort matters. Repetition of such affirmations turns fatigue into determination. Energy flows where focus goes, and words guide focus. By speaking strength, you summon it. Use this principle each day. Before work, whisper encouragement. Before challenges, declare resilience. Before rest, affirm peace. These simple habits create an atmosphere of steady energy. The words you speak become the fuel you carry, and with that fuel, even the longest journey becomes possible. Within every heart exists a quiet voice. It does not shout. It does not demand. It whispers truth, often ignored because of its softness. Respecting this small voice is one of the most profound practices of inner dialogue. It means telling yourself, I will listen. It means honoring the subtle intuition that guides, even when it contradicts logic or fear. The small voice often speaks in moments of stillness. It says, wait. It says, go. It says, this is not right. When the inner dialogue dismisses it with noise, mistakes multiply. But when the self-talk includes space for listening, I will pay attention, I will be still, clarity emerges. Respect for this voice is respect for wisdom deeper than thought. To honor the small voice, self-talk must shift from constant command to humble openness. This does not mean abandoning leadership of the mind. It means balancing direction with listening. A leader who never listens becomes blind. A soul that never hears its inner whisper loses its way. The small voice is often the bridge between human effort and spiritual guidance. Practice pausing in your inner dialogue. Instead of always saying, I must act, allow yourself to say, I will listen. Over time, the small voice becomes clearer. It does not grow louder, it grows easier to recognize. By respecting it, you align with a truth that cannot be seen with the eyes. That truth becomes the compass that guides your journey with grace.